So this is another movie I went into basically blind. I only knew the title, and I also knew Vanessa Kirby and Shia LaBeouf were starring in it. And for some reason I had the idea in my head that this was gonna be a thriller. But I have no idea where I got that from, because it's really not, but that kinda worked to my advantage actually. Because it doesn't take very long to figure out that this is gonna be something else entirely. And at that point I just had to give in and let the movie do its thing. Because I really had no idea what to expect from it, and that was a very good thing. Now, the movie itself also gets off to a very good start. First we're introduced to all the main players and the basic premise as well. And Shia LaBeouf plays a construction worker who's about to have a baby with his wife, played by Vanessa Kirby. And I really liked the snappy and sharp dialogue and was just very much enjoying myself almost immediately. I also noticed that there was no score whatsoever going on at this point of the movie. It just focused on the characters and the dialogue and what they were doing. However, then very quickly, but at the same time without feeling jarring or too sudden, the tone of the movie starts to shift after it has set up everything it wanted to set up. And what we then get is a sequence that's about 20 minutes long and made to look like a single take. And the content of that sequence is some remarkable stuff all around. Just nothing short of excellent filmmaking, and maybe the most intense scene I've seen so far this year. Really powerful stuff, and I was not in any way, shape or form prepared for it. It takes you on an emotional roller coaster ride, and when it was over I was completely spent. Now after that, the movie shifts gears again and slows down, getting into a different sort of rhythm. And we get to follow the main cast while they deal with the aftermath of the events for the rest of the movie basically. And while the rest of the movie isn't bad by any stretch of the imagination, it can't really live up to the high standards set by that one sequence early on. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword having something that impactful take place so early on. It's just almost impossible to follow that up, and everything else kinda pales in comparison. In addition to that, I would say the pacing probably wasn't ideal for the rest of it either. And it did feel kinda long and slow, so the rest of the movie wasn't quite as great. In fact, I think it had some other issues as well, for instance the title and the main character. Because the title would suggest that the female protagonist here would be the one in pieces. The one struggling the most, but that's not the case at all. In fact, the opposite is true. She's the one dealing with the situation in the most measured and reasonable way. And it's everyone else around her that's struggling and that are basically falling apart. But the funny thing is, measured and reasonable characters are rarely the most interesting ones. And that's the issue here as well. She's not really that interesting. And the other characters, especially Shia LaBeouf, is way more interesting. Because there doesn't seem to be much of an internal struggle going on with her. And at the end of the day, without that struggle, there's not gonna be much of an arc. And that's exactly how this played out too. What I expected to happen happened. Because the main character is a measured and reasonable person. She of course did what that person would do. And while it definitely felt like the right thing, it wasn't very exciting, and yeah, it was kind of a problem. And for a movie that kicks it off with such intense drama, it kind of fizzled out. Now there are still very strong moments in the rest of the movie too. And overall I didn't really mind this movie at all. Also the performances all around are really good, as is the dialogue, so it never managed to bore me either. However, I can't help but to feel that this could have been something really special. But it ended up slowly falling into slightly more mediocre territory. And with that said, I think I'm gonna have to give this one a solid 7. Because it's definitely not bad, and there are certainly things to love about it as well. So I would probably recommend you give it a chance, maybe watch the first 30 minutes and go from there. Or you could also not do that. After all, I'm not your dad. But hey, what are your thoughts on this? Have you seen it? Did you like it? Let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, maybe give it a thumbs up or sub to the channel, because that would be fantastic.